are. Jerusalem has fallen. Its walls have been broken down. The temple has been burned to the ground. Its items of worship have been taken away. Its gold and bronze have been taken away. Its religious leaders and its political leaders have been murdered. Its king has been taken captive, but not before watching his sons brutally murdered and then having his eyes gouged out. The last thing he would ever see. At this point in Israel's history, things seemingly couldn't possibly be worse. The Jews had just lost their independence as a nation. They've lost their freedom as individuals. They lost their capital city, their temple, their way of life, and now the Babylonians have come in and they control the land. What we've seen over the last couple of months in 2 Kings is this is what happens when you walk away from the Lord. This is what happens when you refuse to listen to what God says. No longer will Jerusalem have a king. Instead, the Babylonians will appoint a governor, and that governor will be submissive to Babylon. It'll be a person whom the Babylonians choose, and they choose a guy named Gedaliah. Gedaliah. There's two names, really two main names that we want to remember throughout this message. One of those names is Gedaliah. Gedaliah starts with a G, and his job is a governor, which starts with a G. Maybe you could remember it that way. Gedaliah the governor. Verse 22. Now as for the people who were left in the land of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, had left, he appointed Gedaliah, the son of Ahikam, the son of Shaphan, over them. So Gedaliah is from a prominent family in Jerusalem, and I'm not going to go into the details of that, but if you want some of that, just send me an email and I'll get it to you. And it's hard to see why this guy, Gedaliah, had not been taken away. I mean, because his family is a prominent family, you would think Gedaliah would have been taken away in exile. But there's one reason why I can come up with. There's one reason that I can come up with why he was not taken away with other prominent people. What do you think? Why Gedaliah was left? Or maybe why Gedaliah was appointed governor? Wesley. You know, a lot of times that's a good answer because he believed in God. In this particular case, it's not the right answer. The Babylonians didn't really believe in the Lord. They weren't worshipers of the Lord. So they weren't looking for someone who was loyal to the Lord, so to speak. Paul. I got something else. I would normally say yes, but I have a reason why I don't love that option. Brian.
Actually, reading is a show of Babylon's power since he was a prominent man. He was showing that he had power over this prominent man who would do his bidding, would be an excursion to
I could be involved. I've got something a lot more base. I've got something a lot more primal. I'm going to go with Jen.
He wasn't a threat.
He's not a threat. And connected to that, what were you going to say, Brittany?
In the same vein, like he's an inside person, Nebuchadnezzar.
He's loyal to Babylon. This is a guy who's loyal to Babylon. He's willing to be loyal he recognizes how powerful Nebuchadnezzar is. He's willing to be loyal to Babylon. This is a guy, from what we can tell, from what Nebuchadnezzar can tell at least, this is a guy who's going to stay in line. He's going to follow, if we could say, the party line, so to speak. And he's probably, now the reason why I don't love compromise, I would normally say compromise. If you're working together with the Babylonians, it makes sense. Like, this is, the Babylonians aren't really good people, the Assyrians aren't really good people, someone who's working together with some of these people, these idol worshipers, you would think compromise. But in this particular case, Jeremiah had already prophesied of the 70-year exile. So Jeremiah had already told the people what God had said here. And that's probably why a guy like Gedaliah would stay in line, because he was likely aware of Jeremiah's prophecy of the destruction of Jerusalem and how they were supposed to submit to Babylon. So Jeremiah's message is pro-Babylonian, but Jeremiah's message is only pro-Babylonian because it's pro-God, because that's what God said. So in this case, I don't love compromise. Normally I would. But I'm looking at it saying, these guys who find themselves, like Jeremiah, for instance, Jeremiah understands, I mean, he's the mouthpiece for God. It may be, we don't know, but it may be that Gedaliah is in line with Babylon because Jeremiah's prophecies. So that's why I'm less inclined to say compromise in that particular case. But when the Babylonians released Jeremiah from his prison, remember Judah had put him in prison for prophesying against Jerusalem and in favor of Babylon. When the Babylonians came in, they released Jeremiah, and they kind of like, hey, Jeremiah is pro-Babylonian, and he could do whatever he wants to do. And they put him under this guy, Gedaliah. What's his job? Governor. Gedaliah, the governor. They put Jeremiah under this guy's protection. So this guy knows Jeremiah. And anyone who's paying attention in the royal court or surrounded to the royal court or in Jerusalem knows what Jeremiah is saying. And they know why Jeremiah was thrown in the stocks before the Babylonian conquest of Jerusalem. So anyway, when the people who are left, when they see that Gedaliah is the governor, they come to him in verse 23. When all the captains of the forces, they and their men, heard that the king of Babylon had appointed Gedaliah governor, again from a prominent family, they came to Gedaliah at Mizpah, namely Ishmael the son of... So these are some of the guys that came. Now, Ishmael is a name I want you to remember, okay? Ishmael the son of Nethaniah. So if we were having a test, remember when you were in school, and I remember even in college, they would tell you, sometimes they would tell you, they'd say, hint, this is going to be on the test. I never really, it's like, you're telling me it's on the test. Like, I don't know, I mean, I always appreciated that. I was always thankful for that, because then I knew what to memorize. But, you know, is it really that much of a test if you're telling me what's on it? I don't know, whatever. This is going to be on the test. All right, if there's a test, this guy's name is on it. Now Ishmael. What other Ishmael do we know from the Bible? What do we know? What other Ishmael do we know from the Bible? Just real quick, Dustin. Abraham's son. Is he presented kind of positively or negatively? I would have to say somewhat negatively, right? What's that? Yeah. So we have kind of like we're going to call it like a negative, you know, and the women that he was marrying and that type of stuff. So yeah, let's call him a negative, if we can. Let's call him a negative influence. Can we remember any major incidents with Ishmael? Anything major? Someone said Hagar, I think. Someone said Hagar. Someone said how he was taken into the... Did someone say Hagar?
He said Abraham's son is with Hagar.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and remember he was gonna die. They were gonna, and that type of stuff. So yeah, and then we have not the most positive presentation of Ishmael. Maybe there isn't the most positive presentation of this is Ishmael. Whether it's true or not, we'll see in a second. But just remember that guy. He's going to be on the test. All right. Gedaliah the governor, Ishmael the, I don't know yet. I don't know what he is yet. We're going to find out. Ishmael the son of Nethaniah, and Johanan the son of Kareah, and Seraiah the son of Tanhumeth, and the Netophathite, and Jaazaniah, the son of the Maacathite, they and their men. So we have these people, and Gedaliah is leading in the town of, oh man, you're not going to see that. Here we go. This is better. They're in Jerusalem, just north of Jerusalem, Mizpah, just a few miles north of Jerusalem. So he's in a small town in what was traditionally considered the middle of Benjamite territory, about 8 miles north of Jerusalem or so. And this is where he gives account to, this is where Gedaliah gives account to the Babylonians. But we'll read about that in just a minute. So you have this, you have Gedaliah the governor, you have Ishmael the son of Nethaniah. Well, anyway, Gedaliah tells the people not to be afraid of the Babylonians in verse 24. Gedaliah, the what? Governor, he is the person in authority at the moment. Gedaliah swore to them and to their men and said to them, "Do not be afraid of the servants of the Chaldeans." The Chaldeans are just another name for the Babylonians. "Live in the land and serve the king of Babylon, and it will be well with you." Now, at this point, I want to jump over to Jeremiah's account. Jeremiah 40 and verse 6. Then Jeremiah went to Mizpah we're in Jeremiah 40. Jeremiah went to Mizpah to Gedaliah, the son of Ahikam, and stayed with him among the people who were left in the land. Now, I'm just going to, for sake of time, because we have some stuff to read, just skip up to verse 9. Then Gedaliah, the son of Ahikam, the governor, the son of Shaphan, swore to them and to their men, saying, "Do not be afraid of serving the Chaldeans. Stay in the land and serve the king of Babylon, that it may go well with you." We just read that. We just saw that same account in 2 Kings. "Now as for me, behold, I am going to stay at Mizpah to stand for you before the Chaldeans who come to us. But as for you," so I'm gonna go and I'm going to represent our people to the Babylonians from Mizpah. "But as for you, gather in wine and summer fruit," and that's just the word for grape juice. It could be grapes, it could be grape juice, it could be fruit of the vine. Gather in wine and summer fruit and oil, and put them in your storage vessels, and live in your cities that you have taken over. So we see that there are Jews that had fled and came back. And then we continue to read in Jeremiah, "Likewise, also all the Jews who were in Moab and among the sons of Ammon and in Edom," if this is Jerusalem, if this is Israel, modern Israel, kind of something like that. A lot of stuff going on in this portion of Israel in the current events. So there's talk about maybe Israel basically taking all that land back. Actually, Trump has talked about maybe going in here and making like a second. What was the name of that city they made in where the Burj Khalifa is, the big tower? What's that? It's like another Dubai, like make another Dubai out of that section of land. I don't know how I feel about us getting involved in that whole business, but whatever. If that's modern Israel, and we were to zoom in on Judah, which would just be the southern portion of that, over to the east are the people of Ammon, the people of Moab. Can anyone think of anyone from Moab, a biblical character who was from Moab, who left their gods and came to Israel to worship the Lord? Is that a hand? Ruth. And Edom. So these people had come from, they had fled to these places away from war. And this is all desert. It's like especially down here towards the land of the Nabateans. Just all desert down there. But anyway, sorry. All the Jews who were in Moab and among the sons of Ammon and in Edom, the three countries I kind of showed, and who were in all the other countries, heard that the king of Babylon had left a remnant for Judah, and that he had appointed over them Gedaliah, the son of Ahikam, the son of Shaphan. Then all the Jews returned from all the places to which they had been driven away and came to the land of Judah to Gedaliah at Mizpah and gathered in wine and summer fruit in great abundance. So what you have is kind of like these people fled war. They realize this war is now kind of over. They've appointed Gedaliah. It's safe to come back. So there's one more piece of information one more piece of the puzzle that I want you to see in Jeremiah's account. Now Johanan, you don't have to remember this name, the son of Kareah, and all the commanders of the forces that were in the field came to Gedaliah at Mizpah. Gedaliah is the governor, right? They came to him and said to him, "Are you well aware that Baalis, the king of the sons of Ammon, has sent Ishmael, the son of Nethaniah?" He's on the test. Ishmael's one of our players. Is he icky? Or what's a positive I? Something that starts with I. Incredible. Is it Ishmael the incredible or Ishmael the ick? I don't know. What's another I that's like, what is it? I still don't know what you said, but. Oh, idiot. Ishmael the idiot. I like that word. Anyway, are you well aware that Baalis, the king of the sons of Ammon, has sent Ishmael, the son of, is he good or bad? Ishmael, the son of Nethaniah, to take your life? So now there's a rumor here that this Ishmael guy is going to kill Gedaliah. But Gedaliah, the son of Ahikam, did not believe them. Then Johanan, the son of Kareah, spoke secretly to Gedaliah in Mizpah, saying, "Nobody will ever know. They'll never know." All right, something like that. Is that how the videos go? They'll never know. They'll never know when someone makes a mistake, and then it's like obvious. Do I have that right, Lauren? Is that how? Something like that. "Let me go and kill Ishmael, the son of Nethaniah. I'll go kill him. I'll go murder him. And not a man will never know. Nobody will ever know. Why should he take your life so that all the Jews who are gathered to you would be scattered and the remnant of Judah would perish?" But Gedaliah, the son of Ahikam, said to Johanan, the son of Kareah, "Do not do this thing, for you are telling a lie about Ishmael. How dare you speak negatively about Ishmael?" Now, who thinks it's Ishmael the Incredible? Couple of kids. Who thinks it's Ishmael the icky or the idiot? There's got to be another I. There's got to be a better I. Irksome. Is that just that you got another I, or you're just agreeing with us? Go ahead. Like mid without the M? He's Ishmael. Oh, you got one? Insolent? Ignorant? Okay, something like that. So who thinks he's bad? Who thinks he's good? So who believes Johanan's report about him? Thinks he's going to try to kill Gedaliah. In other words, he's bad. Well, this guy tells the governor about this plot against the governor's life. And he tells him that Ishmael wants to kill him. And he offers to go assassinate the guy in private. If that doesn't happen, if this guy ends up succeeding and killing Gedaliah, all the people are going to scatter. The Babylonians, the guy they put in charge, they're going to be upset. They're going to come against him. But Gedaliah does not believe him. And Gedaliah again says, "You are telling, you're a liar about Ishmael. Ishmael would never do something like that. I know Ishmael. I've met Ishmael. He's a good dude. He would never do that." Now, why would Gedaliah, by the way, Ishmael's a bad dude. It's Ishmael the icky. So most of you have read this. We already kind of know what's coming. So it's kind of like cheating. But for the kids, it could have gone either way. It could have been 50-50. Now, why in the world would Gedaliah think that Ishmael was a decent dude? What about Ishmael would make Gedaliah think he was a decent dude? Or what would Ishmael have to be in order for Gedaliah to think he's a decent guy? Anyone have any thoughts on that? Why would I think some bad guy is a good guy? Wait, anyone? What's that? Maybe a friend. He's good at something. The bad guy's good at something. What's he good at? He's good at lying! He's good at being deceptive. He's good at being a two-faced liar. So let me tell you, do you meet people like that? Do you meet two-faced people? Of course you meet two-faced people. When I look at this, and I'm thinking about this in like real-life terms, I'm like, no, there's no way this guy's a bad guy. There's no way he would try to murder me. That means that this guy Ishmael was so good at lying that he was able to cover his real intentions. He's a two-faced liar. That's what he is. Now, I don't know if you've ever been in that situation where you tell someone the truth, someone else tells them a lie, and they believe the lie over the truth. Isn't that frustrating? Oh man, that just gets me. It's like, oh, how could you be so like, what was the I? Ignorant? Is that one you said? Idiotic? How could you not know? How could you not know what what this person is? And you just shake your head. Well, Gedaliah is being warned about Ishmael the ick, we're going to just call him, or Ishmael the idiot or whatever, insolent. Doesn't believe the messenger. And guess what happens? Anybody want to take a guess? Kids, what happens to Gedaliah? Take a guess. Does he go to the local bingo night and win the jackpot? No, because, Christians wouldn't do that, right? Christians shouldn't gamble. He's not a Christian yet. What happens to Gedaliah? What do we think?
He gets killed?
Well, let's find out. Let's find out what happens. Who says killed? Who says he finds out about it and changes his mind real quick and doesn't get killed and flees? Who says that? Okay, well, we kind of want to see a happy ending a little bit here. We hope this guy doesn't get killed. But it came about in the 7th month that Ishmael, the son of Nethaniah, the son of Elishama, of the royal family, this guy kind of thinks he's, he comes from the royal family, so he kind of thinks he's, maybe this is, I could restore the kingdom. I come from the house of David. The Davidic line is ended. I could restore the Davidic line. All I have to do is kill Gedaliah. If I kill Gedaliah, I could kind of take the throne for myself, maybe. The son of Elishama of the royal family came with 10 men and struck Gedaliah down so that he died. He died. Kids, he died. The girls were like, oh, I was really kind of hoping he made it. Yeah, he died. Along with the Jews and the Chaldeans who were with him at Mizpah. So this lowlife, I wish Ishmael started with an L. Lishmael the lowlife. That would be easier. This lowlife kind of comes in and thinks he's going to be the next king, and he kills Gedaliah, and he kills the Babylonians that are there, and he kills the Jews that are with him, and he kills the people who are there at Mizpah. This is bad. This is a bad situation because the governor was appointed authority over the Jews, and now the Jews have revolted and killed that Babylonian governor. This is bad because the Babylonians can see this as revolution and bring their armies back and cause more war in the land. Ishmael has to know what Jeremiah said. Ishmael, we can only imagine, rejects what God said through the mouth of Jeremiah the prophet. And look at the foolishness. And Gedaliah, it's like, oh man, dude, you just got warned of a plot. This guy knew who Ishmael was. He knew he was a bad guy. He knew he was an insolent dude. And we told you, and you ignored it, and now you're dead. And so the people who are left are afraid of the wrath of Babylon. And what do? They flee to Egypt. Then all the people, like, you think it couldn't get worse. You think it couldn't get worse than the Babylonians coming in and destroying your temple and taking away your king and taking away all the bronze and the gold and taking away all the utensils in the house of the Lord and taking away all the prominent people. You think it couldn't get worse. That now your best option is to go back to Egypt, to bondage, to the iron furnace, the place that God said to never go back. That's your best option. Then all the people, both small and great, and the captains of the forces arose and went to Egypt, for they were afraid of the Chaldeans. Now, what's really wild is that Jeremiah, if you read Jeremiah 41 through 43, and I thought about maybe going there. I thought about maybe like after this message, doing a few weeks in Jeremiah, but I've decided I'm going to just do Jeremiah when we do Jeremiah. Just do those passages at some point in the future. But Jeremiah tells them, no, let's not go back to Egypt. The war that you're looking to escape here while you flee to Egypt, it's going to find you in Egypt and you're going to die there. But they didn't listen. They didn't listen. They go anyway, and they force Jeremiah to go. And after 860 years, after the people of Israel left Egypt, they left Egypt in 1446. Now, right around 586, they go back. They go back. They voluntarily exile themselves in the iron furnace of Egypt. And they hope that they find relief from the Babylonians there, much like their ancestors sought relief in Egypt about 1,000 years earlier, during the time of Joseph. And it is a terrible, terrible situation where things couldn't be worse. There's no temple, no king, no land, no country, no freedom. They're on the threshold of hell. They've got nothing left. And it seems that the Davidic dynasty and its promise of an everlasting throne from the Lord is over. But there is hope. There is light at the end of a long, dark, and dreary tunnel. Verse 27. Now it came about. Check this out. Now it came about in the 37th year of the exile of Jehoiakim, king of Judah. Jehoiakim is the third guy here. He is exiled in 597. You'll add 36 years, or technically you'll subtract 36 years from that to get the year. All right. It's about total here, 37th year of the exile of Jehoiakim. In the 12th month, in the 27th day of the month, that Evil-Merodach, king of Babylon, in the year that he became king, released Jehoiakim, king of Judah, from prison. And he spoke kindly to him and set his throne above the throne of the kings who were with him in Babylon. Jehoiakim changed his prison clothes and had his meals in the king's presence regularly all the days of his life. And for his allowance, a regular allowance was given him by the king, a portion for each day, all the days of his life. This guy, Jehoiakim, was 18 years old when he became king. He was exiled and taken to Babylon in 597 BC. And now he's been in prison for like 35 years, over 35 years. You do the math on that. What's 37 and 18? That's the same as 35 and 20, which is what? He's like 55 years old. When he was 18, he was taken into slavery, and now as an older man, 55 years old. Who here is 55? Anyone around 55? You're 55? How old are you? How old? 54. Paul, you're 55? No. Not yet. You got a few years, about seven years left there. About Brian's age. An 18-year-old kid. Isabella's 18. At Isabella's age, he's put in prison And at Brian's age, he's let out and he's fed. He spent his entire adulthood in a Babylonian prison. And now, finally, at 55 years old, he's put in a place of honor at the king's table, given a regular allowance. And what we see at the very end of 2 Kings is that the line of David is not dead. All is not lost. God's love will never be taken away from David, as we saw back in 2 Samuel 7. There is hope for a future Davidic ruler. God's promises to Israel, as bad as things looked, and they couldn't look worse, then they got worse, God's promises to Israel are still alive, and those promises will be fulfilled in the line of David through the Messiah. And all we have to do to continue this hope is to turn over to Matthew, the genealogy of Jesus the Messiah. Check this out. Matthew 10. Hezekiah. We'll know some of these names. Hezekiah was the father of Manasseh. Manasseh, was he good or bad? Manasseh the malignant? He was not good. Hezekiah was the father of Manasseh, 55-year reign of terror. Manasseh the father of Ammon, and Ammon the father of Josiah. Josiah became the father of Jeconiah, whose name is also Jehoiakim. This guy who was put in prison, and it couldn't seem worse, and spent from the time he was 18 to the time he was 55 years old. This guy ends up in the line of the Messiah. The Messiah would come through that very king that 2 Kings ends with. Josiah became the father of Jeconiah and his brothers at the time of the deportation to Babylon. After the deportation of Babylon, Jeconiah became the father of Shealtiel, and Shealtiel the father of Zerubbabel. One day, almost 600 years later, the Messiah would be born. Jesus of Nazareth would be born, and he would save his people from their sins. Throughout 2 Kings, we've seen really clearly, over and over and over, the consequences of sin. You can't miss it. You can't miss the consequences. Look what happens when you turn away from the Lord. Look what happens when you rebel against what God says. Look what happens when you compromise. Look what happens when you reject what God says. Look what happens when you follow idols. Look what happens when you ignore God. This is what happens in 2 Kings. This is what happens. You lose everything you hold dear. Israel lost it all. They lost their kingdom, their temple, their freedom, and they lost it all because of sin, because of rebellion against God. They lost it because they followed idolatrous leaders instead of the Lord. But what we've seen throughout this entire book, and what we've mentioned over and over and over, maybe not every single king we've mentioned it, but we've mentioned it over and over and over, is the need for a new king. The need for a messianic king, a perfect king, a divine king. And one day that king will return. One day Jesus will rule in perfect justice and righteousness. And the people of Israel who were removed from God's presence, who saw the judgment of God, and one day also answered before God, they would have heard at some point when they were judged before God of this Messiah and his coming and bringing the entire world back into his presence. And he did that when he offered himself in your place. Imagine the day standing before God and rejecting the Lord and rejecting the messianic line of David and rejecting what God had said about the Messiah and being thrown into the lake of fire. Jesus, all of us would be thrown in the lake of fire if Jesus didn't take our place, if he didn't die on the cross to pay the penalty for our sins. And so you need to listen to what God says in his word. You need to submit to what God says in his word. You need to not reject it, not rebel against it, or else you'll face the consequences of sin, and those consequences will be way worse than exile and way worse than having to return to the iron furnace of Egypt. Those consequences will be eternity in hell. You'll stand before God and answer. You need to listen to what God says in His Word and place your faith in His Son, the Messiah. He's what these Jews ultimately needed, was the Messiah. It's the only way that anyone could be saved in all of human history. The basis of salvation has always been the blood of Christ. And you need the Messiah as well. I'd like to ask you to bow your heads and close your eyes for a brief moment of invitation. You're here and you're not sure you're saved. Would you just raise your hand up for me? No one looking around. You're here and you're not sure that you're saved. You're not sure that you're going to heaven when you die. Would you just raise your hand up real quick for me so I could see and I could pray for you privately? I see that hand. Anyone else? I'm not sure. I see that hand. I'm not sure that if I die today, that I'm going to heaven. I'm not sure I've been saved from the penalty of my sin. Anyone else? Heavenly Father, we praise you and glorify you. We know that you are the one true God, and we know that you have brought salvation through your Son. We know that the basis of salvation has always been the blood of Christ. We know that salvation has always been by faith. But we also know that the content of that faith has been progressively revealed throughout time. And we praise you and thank you that we have a completed gospel and that we have everything we need for life and godliness. And we know that the final plan of salvation, the completed plan of salvation, is that we would place our faith in the work of your Son on the cross and that we would have everlasting life through faith in your Son. I pray for these couple who aren't sure of their salvation. I pray that you would continue to convict, that you would continue to put your gospel message in front of them until they place their faith in your Son and be saved. Pray for people in this room who need to be convicted but aren't convicted. And I don't know who they are, but you know who they are. I pray that you would do a fresh work of conviction in their lives. I pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. 3:19, we're going to close our Bible study.